civic engagement. And this reality has underscored the need for a structure, effective reforms to bridge the gap between constitutional promises and lived experiences. Your Excellency, while the Constitution guarantees us rights, we must, as a matter of urgency, begin to have a national conversation on responsibilities as part of human rights. The conversation around responsibilities sometimes misses when we have conversations in the country. Responsibilities of the citizens as they exercise their rights and the responsibilities of the duty bearers as they carry out their duties. Responsibilities to ensure that our rights do not infringe on others and that exercise of rights does not lead to deaths, does not lead to injuries, does not lead to destruction of livelihoods, destruction of property, including public property, and which public property is expected to offer services to us as citizens. Your Excellency, we must now more than ever have a conversation on the cost of violent protests in Kenya. There is a significant cost on human lives, including deaths and injuries, and contribution to instability of the country. But violent protests also have significant short-term and long-term economic consequences for Kenya, affecting public finances, private sector growth, investment, employment, and overall economic stability. The impacts extend beyond the immediate destruction of property and often undermine development gains accumulated over the years. Your Excellency, violent protests lead to reduced economic growth. They disrupt business operations, transportation networks, and commercial activities. Businesses are forced to close temporarily, leading to reduced production, lower sales, declining tax revenues, and when protests occur repeatedly, economic growth slows as both domestic and foreign investors adopt a wait-and-see approach. For Kenya, where services including trade, tourism, and agriculture are major contributors to GDP, prolonged disruption can significantly reduce quarterly and annual economic growth. Your Excellency, violent protests leads to decline on foreign direct investment because investors consistently seek predictability, political stability, and security. And violent protests create perceptions of instability and increase investment risks. For a country such as Kenya, seeking to attract manufacturing, technology, and infrastructure investment, recurrent unrest significantly undermines competitiveness. Allow me, Your Excellency, to just give you an example of how we have incurred costs, especially in the 2025 protests. And going by the data from the Ministry of Interior, the protests that took place between June and July of 2025 has costed the country a whopping loss of about Kenya shillings 3 billion. And this is just 1 month's loss. Your Excellency, 3 billion can go a long way in meeting a lot of our national obligations. And as a country, we cannot afford to sustain consistent losses as a result of violent public protests. And as Kenyans, we must understand that these losses mean digging deeper into our pockets to recover these losses, and as such, it must be our shared responsibility to ensure that we exercise our rights responsibly. Your Excellency, allow me now to focus on the assignment that the Commission was given to undertake, and to note that in the development of this framework and the accompanying guidelines, the Commission was guided by international standards on reparations, particularly the basic principles and guidelines on the right to a remedy and reparation for victims of gross human rights violation under international human rights law, as adopted by the UN General Assembly in December of 2005. In this process, we as a country have demonstrated our ability to ensure adoption of the highest standards in implementing our human rights obligations, especially as a respected member of the United Nations. The Commission took into account and carefully drew lessons from prior national processes, particularly draft legislations, policies, and reparations processes that have already been proposed. And this includes the draft Kenya Reparations Bill of 2019, as well as policy and regulatory proposals presented to the Attorney General in 2029 by civil society organizations under the leadership of the Kenya Transitional Justice Network. Your Excellency, despite significant time constraint, this process was undertaken through extensive consultations, public participation, and technical engagements with various stakeholders, including victims, civil society organizations, constitutional commissions, independent officers, state agencies, and members of the public, all of whom enriched this process with invaluable perspectives and expertise. In compliance with Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya, the Commission subjected the draft guidelines to a robust public participation process and received a total of 281 submissions from members of the public in the form of memoranda, letters, proposals, and these have contributed significantly to the final framework that we submit today. So, Your Excellency, the framework presented today therefore proposes a raft of reparations, including compensation, rehabilitation, restitution, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition. And these are standard reparative justice measures used in transitional justice and human rights contexts to address human rights suffered by victims of violations. The framework, therefore, seeks to establish a